Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? It's all starting this week. Everything that I've been talking about, how I said January just has all of these things going on and there's all of these changes going on. Are you ready? Did that Saturn-Uranus square last week check you? Like, are you awake yet? Have you been? Are you aware of the situation? Are you here yet? Like, has the coffee hit you? Has the cold water hit you yet? Because this is not like it's everything's in effect now, right? The wheels are now in motion. Venus is already retrograde. We've already begun. That Saturn-Uranus square should have gave us a nice little crack, like a glow stick. And this week, I mean, so many things happened this week, right? Now that we're done with Christmas, we're off the holiday season, we're going into the new year, and like straight the fuck up, like, you know, this is something that I'm going to keep talking about, but I want to talk about it right now while it's on the top of my head before I forget about it. And I mentioned this last week about how the hard times require, like, it's a good time to do the hard things during the hard times. I've lately been getting into like natural, like a lot of like natural stuff, like natural cleaning. Like I'm trying to replace all of my like detergents with like vinegar and like baking soda and shit. And as I've been getting into this stuff and like all just kind of all of this, you know, all that type of stuff, you learn a lot about salt and vinegar. And it's amazing how when you also get into the history of food and food preservation, how salt and vinegar, which also, mind you, are ruled by Saturn and Mars. Salt is ruled by Saturn, Mars is ruled by vinegar is ruled by Mars. Was the way that we were able to take food and preserve it throughout the winter, through the harshest times. It takes that salt, that saltiness and that bitterness of vinegar to like really get through the shit, right? Mars and Saturn, that tough shit is what's going to get you through the hard times. It's what's going to make the good stuff last. And I find so much comfort in that. And I bring that up because like, now that we're going into the new year, right? We're well, the other thing is too, this is another analogy I was thinking about that I'm going to keep coming back to in this week's horoscope. I know we haven't even started yet, but like I think this week is about changing the attitude about what we're kind of going through. One way to look at it is something I was thinking about this morning. It's really rainy here. It was really rainy here in Vegas this morning. It's like not now, like the sun's like coming out. There's like rainbows everywhere. It's like really beautiful. Have you ever woke up on a winter morning and it's cold and you just want to stay in bed, but and you don't really want to go outside, you don't want to get wet, but then something goes on and like, I don't know, maybe you go and have a snow day and there's this sense of like, have you ever had a snow day and you didn't want to go outside, you didn't want to be a part of it, but then you go outside and well, you're outside. Like, have you ever played in the mud in the winter? There's something so I love the idea of playing in the mud, because there's something about the mud and like wetness and like dirtiness that makes you go, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get it. But then you get into it and it's nothing but fun. Like that's what this week's about. Straight the fuck up. Like you're either going to have fun or you're not going to have fun. Jupiter's in Pisces now. And this is the thing. Well, Jupiter's going to be going into Pisces and it's going to be an inversion, meaning it won't be able to visually see all of the Saturn and Capricorn stuff, right? Well, like you'll be able to sextile the Capricorn stuff, but it's not going to see the Aquarius stuff. You have got to see the bigger picture now. You've got it. Like, this is the time to really say, you know what? Fuck it. Like, this is what I have hope for. This is what I'm creating in the new year. What are you doing this new year? Like, this is like, wake up. Are you here or not? Because this is the time. Let's just go. Let me just shut up and let's just get into this week. So, hold on. I'm all over the place here. So we start this week off. Really Monday doesn't have a lot going on. It's just the moon making a sextile to Mars and a trine to Saturn as it's in Libra. That's fine, I guess. Nothing too spectacular or crazy about that. Oh, whoops, wrong camera. There I am. Let's talk a little bit about this. Moon's in Libra. We're getting ready for this new moon in Capricorn. That's a whole nother thing. Gosh, we have so much going on this week. But I think as the moon's in Libra, right, we're trying to negotiate. We're trying to work things out, right? We're still in the middle of this Saturn-Uranus square. We're still, again, probably taking risks, trying to gamble a little bit, saying fuck it, right? this moon in Libra sextile or trining Saturn in Aquarius is really like, I think charming and flirting, like charming your way through things. Like the moon in Libra is like, okay, how can I navigate this? How can I negotiate this? How can I really make this work out in some way, right? This is all air sign stuff. So everything's kind of clicking mentally. And the thing is, the moon makes a sextile to Mars before it trines Saturn, right? So there's this sense of, again, Mars in Sagittarius, moon in Libra, there's such like this charming, like flirtatious, fun energy to this, right? Mars in Sagittarius is trying to go, right? Mars in Sagittarius is like, I'm on a mission. I have like, especially too, Mars in Sagittarius is a tune is going to change a lot when Jupiter enters Pisces, mind you. I don't know if you guys are going to be ready for that one. It's going to be pretty fun. But as the moon sextiles Mars, it's like, okay, this makes sense. This is where I want to go. The moon is the translator, right? The moon is taking all the planet's light and transferring it to everybody else. So the moon's just taking Mars and Sagittarius's message and giving it to Saturn and Aquarius, but through the moon and Libra of like, hey, Mars and Sagittarius wants to go. Are you down, Saturn Aquarius? And I mean, this is also, we're going to be having the Mars Saturn sextile this week too, which is important. But I really think Monday is, I think, just working out, negotiating, where are you going? Why are you going that way? And it's all kind of coming together like that. What's that one meme? Oh yeah, it's all coming together. So we get into Tuesday. Yeah, Monday's really not all that crazy. Tuesday though, we get into Tuesday. This is when the moon will be making a square to Mercury. It'll be making a square to Venus, and then it'll make a square to Pluto pretty much within like 3 hours. Like it goes bam, bam, bam. And then right before the moon ingresses into Scorpio, the moon will make this trine to Jupiter as kind of like this final goodbye to Jupiter and Aquarius. Pretty cool in my opinion. But Tuesday's interesting. Tuesday, it's not just a Tuesday. There's a lot. Well, here's the thing. We're getting ready for this new moon in Capricorn, right? Which is really going to be bringing in our attention to all the Venus retrograde stuff, the Mercury retrograde stuff. Like that's where all of our attention is going to be focused once we're all done with all of this stuff, right? But there's a reason why all of our focus will be drawn there. And typically it's from other transits, right? Like Venus retrograde or the Mercury retrograde. Here's the thing. The moon is going to be making the square to Mercury, Venus, and Pluto, where this moon in Libra is trying to negotiate. It's trying to work out the best deal. It's trying to do everything, but it's squaring Mercury in Capricorn. It's squaring Venus retrograde in Capricorn. It's squaring Pluto in Capricorn. Mercury's about to enter shadow while it's also conjoining this Venus. And like Mercury is like, all Mercury's doing is just amplifying the like Venus and Pluto right here, right? Venus is retrograde. It's not working, right? This moon in Libra trining Saturn is like, okay, we can probably like negotiate things. The moon in Libra trining Saturn in Aquarius is very communicative. Did I say that right? I don't know if I ever say things right. It's a great transit for talking, maybe getting points across. But when you see this moon in Libra squaring Mercury, Venus, and Pluto, the moon in like, again, when the rules are set up against you, you can't play by the rules and expect to win. That's this moon in Libra squaring this Mercury, Venus, Pluto shit. Like when like the moon in Libra is like, oh, well, you know, it's like going to like oh gosh, it's the moon in Libra. I feel like it can almost be like, I don't want to say gullible, but I would almost say like oblivious or just really kind-hearted. This moon in Libra squaring Mercury, it doesn't matter what you negotiate. It doesn't matter how nice you are. If it's set up against you, you're not going to win. If the plans, the Capricorn stuff, right? The system, if it is the way in which you're organized, or if it's here's the thing. Capricorn can rule a lot of, it depends, of course, on what it rules in your chart, right? But when you talk about Capricorn, you're talking about some type of system, some type of structure, some type of authority, some type of tradition, typically. Something that's usually a little bit more material related. Mercury's here. This is where our mind's at. Venus is retrograde here. So we're really changing our values with how we see the system, how we see corporations, how we see governments. Venus is on top of Pluto. We're seeing a lot of the fucking bullshit that's kind of all going on, right? With everything. This moon in Libra squaring this stuff is like, what's going to work and what's not going to work, right? Like this moon in Libra is like, you have to be able to see where things like, well, you have to understand the moon's in Venus's sign and Venus is fucking retrograde on Pluto. Like, are you seeing it or are you not? And like, and this is the thing too. This is a Venus retrograde. This is a change in value. This is a change in understanding of, again, are you playing by the rules? Is that, are you also too, Venus is on top of Pluto. Are you scared? Are you going to be trapped by this fear? And I think this moon squaring Venus, squaring Pluto, it's like, hey, dude, like if you're going to be scared, like this is what I learned this a lot in motocross. And this is something that's always really kind of like, I'm kind of like low key sharing some childhood trauma. But I had experienced this, you experience this dirt bike riding. When you go to hit a jump, if you bail, if you chicken out as you're hitting that jump, you will crash and you can fucking die. Like I have family members that died dirt bike riding. If you hit that moment and you're face to face with that fear and you don't just commit to it, you can fuck things up. Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing that you learn. They talk about this stuff in prison. Like if someone's gonna check you in prison, and if you're gonna act like, and if you let people walk all over you in prison, like they'll fucking like, you'll be a fucking punching bag for them. If not, like they'll fucking kill you. Even if you don't have anything on, like you gotta stand up. You like, even in the face of that fear, you have to fucking, you just gotta commit. If you're already in a dirt bike analogy, if you're already like fifth gear pinned, like you're going, you're already there. And I think this moon squaring Venus, Mercury is like, well, again, Mercury's about to enter shadow right here on Tuesday. It actually happens on Wednesday. There's so many things that happen on Wednesday. But I think this moon in Libra squaring Venus is, there might be a moment where you kind of, I think if you are afraid, even if you're not telling yourself, this is when it comes up. Like we could sit here and say that we've got it all together, but I think if you do have fear on coming up in you and it's still not worked out, I think this is when you'll see that come up, right? This moon squaring Venus is kind of realizing like that you have to accept that, right? There's this realization, like the moon in Libra is like, hey, I'm trying to have fun. I'm trying to have this peaceful energy. I'm trying to work things out. But my ruler is Venus and Capricorn retrograde. It's all types of fucked up. It's all types of fucked up. There's this, like, I think there's this realization that something's wrong or something's different, and I really think it's like, again, like, well, it's one of those things too. If the rules go kind of against you or are set up to oppress you, right? Like, it's just one of those things. Are you going, like, it's risk and reward. It's risk and reward. It really is. And I think as the moon's making the square to Mercury, square to Venus, square to Pluto, it's like moon in Libra squaring Mercury and Capricorn. It's like, okay, like, let me play by the system. Let me play by the rules and everything should work out, even though it's kind of like, maybe I want to do things this way, but, Libra and Capricorn, there's this sense of like, I'll do it for the greater good. But it's Venus, but then the moon squares Venus and Capricorn, retrograde, like on top of Pluto, where there's a sense of like, oh, this is stupid. like this isn't working. This is different. And I think too, if you're implementing a value shift right now in your life, I think this is when you're going to get checked. Are you down about it? Like, here's the thing. If you're going to make all these changes in your life, the universe is going to check you if you're about that, if you're real or not about it. And if you like, the universe will call your bluff and you can't let that happen. Like, well, the real question is, you could let it happen. I don't give a shit, but like, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's going to make you feel good. I think, but it's just, and this is so important too, because the moon is going to make this trine to Jupiter on Tuesday, right? Which we like that. That's, again, it's kind of like a nice little goodbye to Jupiter in Aquarius. And that's so telling because Jupiter in Aquarius has been so like, what do we got to do to get to the other side? What do I have to see? What do I have to learn? Jupiter in Aquarius is like, again, Jupiter is knowledge, faith, belief. It's an Aquarius. It's learning about, again, Aquarius is like learning about different ideas, exploring different beliefs, exploring different ideas on both sides. Aquarius is very divided too, in case you couldn't tell. But But I think as this moon's in Libra, it's going to trine Jupiter, right? Where there is this kind of like having to see the bigger picture. Like, here's the thing. Jupiter is going into Pisces not because things are good, but because it has to. Jupiter has to go into Pisces. Like, you are going to have to start to believe and have hope again and have faith again in things and be excited about stuff that's going on and be the change that you want to see in order for it to happen. Like, if you're just going to wallow around and wait for things to be better, like, you are going to suffer. That's not how this shit works. If you're waiting for the stars to say that, yes, oh my God, now things are like Jupiter and Pisces is going to be good, right? But it's not because all of a sudden, probably all of a sudden too, I wouldn't be surprised. I was just thinking about this. I wonder if the CDC or if the government will reverse anything, just like we saw on May 14th when Jupiter entered Pisces again. And maybe there's the sense of like the pandemic ending. I don't really know. And I kind of don't want to bring that up. But because I think regardless, even if the pandemic ends, half of you are going to go live your lives. And there's going to be another half of you that still are going to be in that pandemic mindset, which is fine. If you don't want to get sick, that's fine. But there's this thing about Jupiter and Pisces of like, Jupiter's going to go into Pisces. It's going to be an aversion to all this Aquarius stuff, right? You've got to see a hope. You've got to have some faith. You've got to see a bigger picture coming up here. And I think as this moon trines Jupiter, it's kind of like, all right, like, what have I learned? What if now Jupiter is leaving Saturn's sign? It's like, okay, Saturn, am I done? Can we go now? Can I go the fuck home? Jupiter's been in Saturn's sign for the past 2 years. It's been awful, right? Like, that's why I made that Jupiter and Pisces video. It's going to feel great going back into Pisces. It's time. It's time to go. We get to Wednesday. Oh, no. And then the moon goes into Scorpio, which this is where it gets really weird because I want to kind of go hour by hour with you guys. So the moon goes into Scorpio later on Tuesday afternoon, which again, the moon in Scorpio is such clutching your pearls. It's so reactionary. It's so like, oh my God, bad thing happening. But like 20 things happen. So later on Tuesday, this moon goes into Scorpio, right? I think the hard part about this is like, none of this is fun. None of this is easy. I think even too, going back to normal life and things and going into this new year, right? Whatever that looks like for you, which I think if this is the year, if you need to make some changes, do it. But you got to be kind of serious about it. And I don't think there's going to be this kind of like, oh my God, new year, new me. Everything's great. This is, again, salt and vinegar. Like salt and vinegar, dude. Like, if you want to get through this, you got to make it happen. You got to create. And like, what does that mean? What tools do you have? We're in all this Capricorn stuff. Like, get to work, in my opinion. Like, I don't want to say just get to work, but like, make it happen. Make it real. And I think as the moon goes into Scorpio, I think the hard part about the moon in Libra squaring Mercury, Venus, Pluto is there's this sense of like, we all know this, like, this moon in Libra is trying to see the best in everything, right? It's on Spica, but it's squaring Venus. It's squaring Venus. Something's not working. The deal's out. Like, I'm really interested to see what the Iran nuclear deal turns into, which, by the way, is my predictions about that starting to come a little bit more and more true every day. But I think there's this realization that, this isn't going to work and we have to do something different. Well, this is corrupt, or this is, it just, or I don't even want to say corrupt. Pluto, again, power, fear. What are you feeling empowered by? This is not the empower moment, by the way. I think the moon in Libra squaring Venus is, again, you might say that you are in charge. You might say that you're not afraid, but wait till you get fucking checked. And I think that moon in Libra will be like, are you going to like go, I'm actually, let me actually lean a little bit this way. Let me kind of, bring things back a little bit for the sake of peace, for the sake of ease. Or are you going to say, or like this moon, like the moon in Libra is squaring Venus and Capricorn too. Is like, what's right? Like, what's right? What's wrong? What's just? I think this is real. I think also too, this moon in Libra is just realizing the work that also that all of this requires, because the moon's going to go into Scorpio, right? Where the moon goes into its sign of fall. There is this sense of letting go. There's this sense of fear, of panic hitting. I talk a lot about the moon in Scorpio being like that. And I just think this kind of goes into this like, again, we're probably going to see something on the news and it's probably going to suck or whatever, but like, whatever. I think as the moon goes into Scorpio, though, I think that fear, that anger, that you got to release that. Well, here's the thing. We go into Wednesday. Let me move this Wednesday, because this doesn't make really a lot of sense till we get into Wednesday. As we get into Wednesday, look at everything that's going on. I'm probably going to talk about for another 20 minutes about Wednesday. Moon will be in Scorpio, right? So that drop in our stomach and our hearts almost hits on Tuesday afternoon. And I think that moon in Scorpio is also just kind of like real, like being emotionally raw and serious, even though it's a little dramatic. But then on Wednesday, moon's going to make a square to Saturn and opposite Uranus, pretty much at the same time. When you talk about those snap moments, when you like, what I would ask yourself, the Saturn Uranus square, what cracked? What didn't work? It's time. Moon opposite Uranus squaring Saturn at that same time. We're going to revisit that Saturn Uranus square. We're not done with that, by the way, just because that main transit already happened. As that's going on in the background, right? That's not even the highlight. Mars is going to be sextiling Saturn. So like, again, if you want to go full throttle, Mercury enters shadow. I should have made that number one, because that just sets the whole groundwork for all of this. This is on the 29th. We're getting into the new year. Mercury conjoins Venus and Pluto as it enters shadow. So that's a gigantic deal. And Jupiter enters Pisces. Wednesday is insane. And this is why, it's so funny. People like, whenever I say, I'm like, oh, this isn't a big week going on, everyone's like, what do you mean, Cameron? There's tons of big stuff going on. It's like, but if I were to sit here and say that there's a big week every week, really? You're gonna let me gas you guys up like that? Not every week. There's always crazy astrology transits going on. This is the same thing like when people use asteroids. Have you ever seen people put up the birth charts? It's got like a bajillion asteroids, and it's like aspects to every asteroid. It just looks like a clusterfuck of blue and red lines and squiggles. It's bullshit. Like it's like in metal. It's like, there's heavy things, like everything's heavy, but then there's heavier, and like you want to focus on the heavier parts of the heavy stuff, because anyway, let's go to this chart. Let's talk about Wednesday. Because Wednesday, and this is why I say I reserve the saying, oh, this is a crazy week, for weeks like this. This is crazy. This is a lot. This is not a game. This is not your ordinary average astrology day. This is like 10,000 things. And this is just the beginning. We still have Mercury going into Aquarius. We still have the new moon in Capricorn. In January, Venus, we're going to have Mercury station retrograde, square Uranus, which, by the way, on Monday, I have a Mercury retrograde video coming out. Make sure you check that out. We still have that. We have the nodes still shifting too. Like, this is just the beginning. So we get to Wednesday, and this moon Scorpio square Saturn opposite Uranus. This is like okay, that moon in Libra, you might get checked a little bit. Like, okay, are you gonna play by the rules, or are you gonna say fuck it? You should, if you have not said fuck it, if you have not taken that, like, oh gosh, I could literally sit here and scream from the mountaintops about this shit for an hour. Well, and there's I would say there's probably like 3 points I would want to make with this. I think number one is the fuck it attitude of this. Moon squaring Saturn. Again, if you're going to chicken out, you're going to crash. If you are rolling up to a jump and you don't think you're going to make it, and then you kind of power out or you bog out, or you don't really give it your all, like, you're going to eat shit. Or if you just pin it, when in doubt, throttle out. I don't know if you heard that one before, but that's actually really good advice. It's the same. Well, it's actually funny if you're in a car and you're going like sideways like this, you're actually supposed to speed up. Like, if you're ever like losing control of your car, and you don't know this, like, please know, speed the fuck up, hit the gas, because that will straighten you out more often, versus if you slow down, that only will make your momentum even worse. So like, if things are getting squiggly in your life and you slow down, you're only going to squiggle more, versus if you just gas it and say, fuck it, you're more than likely to get out on the other side. I know, it's crazy, but it works. It's how it goes. So Mars sextiling Saturn, right? This Mars in Sagittarius sextiling Saturn Aquarius. That has a nice little ring to it. Mars is in Sag, fighting with our beliefs, fighting with our faith. We're taking, action-based faith. Again, Jupiter enters Pisces the same day? The same day? Like, and it's sextile, like even Saturn in Aquarius is like, okay, Mars, you can have this one. You can go ahead, go. Let it rip. That's what Saturn's saying here, right? Saturn's not saying that for all this Capricorn stuff. And that's that's the other part of this that I wanted to talk about on Wednesday is Mercury conjoining Venus and Pluto as it enters shadow is so, like I talk about it in my Mercury retrograde video, but that's so much. It's a funny thing, right? Because Mercury, when it hits a planet, that's like, oh, bingo, you figure some shit out, some things click. Mercury hitting Pluto turns to extremes. Mercury hitting Pluto turns to fear, turns to that power. Mercury on top of Pluto, like, for some of you, you're going to need to calm down because some of you are going to be really into stuff and you're going to have to really kind of like take yourself out of it. But Venus is retrograde. Mercury enters shadow. The big thing here is whatever you do on this day, we are coming back to by the end of January and the beginning of February. So there's something about this. And I don't want to just say this, it's not just a fuck it thing, right? A lot of you, it is going to just be taking a risk and gamble. For also a lot of you though, too, it's this inevitable change that is coming. This is an unstoppable force, right? And I think Mercury conjoining Venus and conjoining Pluto is kind of like Mercury hitting Venus is you are realizing the change that you are undergoing. You are realizing that certain system. Well, it's kind of like, gosh. Well, when you learn, it's like when you learn about anything in life, like, society always tells you, like, you think the best of like all types of systems and whatnot. And then you kind of learn how something works. You're like, that's so crazy. How does that work? Like, that's dumb. Like Mercury conjoining Venus and Pluto, there's going to be this clicking of like, this is what needs to change. This is what's changing. Here's the thing. There's a lot of extreme energy on this day because everything's on Pluto, moon's in Scorpio. Try to, again, like if it's really extreme, try to like pull yourself out of it, I guess, if you can. But for a lot of people though, too, like, dude, get into it. Like, focus. Like, I don't know, dude, when I see Pluto stuff, like, and I don't know, I just see stuff like this, like, what fucking matters? You know what I mean? To you, to your life. Like, are you going to go through 2020 and this pandemic and these forever lockdowns and this divisive political nature and the media scaring everybody on both sides? Like, are you going to go through all of this and not really question, what's important to you or what matters to you? Or are you just trying to be like, I just want to get over it. I just want to ignore it. Cause like shit matters, right? Like this has been a very impactful year. And I think as Venus is retrograding over all this Capricorn stuff, everything that was going on in 2020, like, man, what the fuck is different? Like, that's what I would say. And I think as Mercury hits Venus, conjoins Pluto, there's a lot of puzzle pieces all coming together here. A lot of puzzle pieces. And I think the moon in Scorpio is going to have us very will be very reactive, which will be for better or for worse, right? So just make sure you're kind of checked in at least. Mercury conjoining Venus, like you might, it's what you're doing, right? Mercury, you're checked in, I think Mercury conjoining Venus and Pluto is like, I think if you are moon and Scorpioing, if you're moon and Scorpioing, you know why. I think for half of you too, I think it's so important if you're like, if you're just overwhelmed with everything in the world, like, whoa, you've got to find some space. Because Pluto like really concentrates things and makes things so loud and so like, that's why I call Pluto like anxiety. Like Pluto is just like this general fear mongering that's going on and in the back of people's heads and whatnot. Like, I would just say, try to not trip about what's going on in the future. This is why Venus retrograde and Pluto, here's the thing. Things are only going to get, I don't want to say things are only going to get worse. There's going to be a lot of things that get better. But like, again, when you want to talk about like mental health, you cannot live that way. Mercury's going to, and again, Jupiter enters Pisces. Here's the thing. Jupiter enters Pisces. Like, It's just like May 14th. How did May 14th feel for you? What are we going into? I think this economically is going to be a big deal. Like, this will be a big deal much more economically, maybe than even in people's personal lives. But as Jupiter goes into Pisces, like this is so much, guys. I would just really say, as Jupiter goes into Pisces now, what is the bigger picture? What are you hopeful for? How are you going to create that? Right? Again, I could literally talk about this week all fucking day, but we got to keep going. Thursday, Moon is going to be making a sextile to Venus and Mercury as it's in those final degrees of Scorpio, and then the Moon goes into Sagittarius. Woo! Wednesday is just a lot. I think Thursday we're still in Wednesday. So, but I think as the Moon is in Scorpio, sextiling Mercury, sextiling Venus, sextiling Pluto is like, you can grab life by the balls and just say, again, fuck it. And I think maybe that might be hard on Wednesday. But the Moon and the end degrees of Scorpio, sextiling Mercury and Pluto and Venus, it's about to go into Sagittarius and hit the South Node, is kind of like, dude, just get over it. Get the fuck over it. Like the fear, what you're scared of. Like, I hate to be this like rude about it, but like, you got to get over the fear. You've got it just wherever that means in your life, right? Like that moon at the end of Scorpio is like, it's as it sextiles Mercury, and Mercury's on Pluto, right? It's kind of like, hey, well, it's like if you're afraid of roller coasters, right? If you're deathly afraid of roller coasters, but somehow you got convinced to go to a roller coaster and you're in line and you finally get to that thing. Have you ever seen people like freak out last minute? It's like, stop. You're here. Just get on the fucking roller coaster. Like you made it this far. You've made it this far. Why? Why are we turning back now? Like, don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy. It's not worth it. Like, you got to do what you got to do. Like Moon and Scorpio with all this Capricorn stuff, be cold about it, right? Like that salt and vinegar. You got to do what you got to do to make it last. And like, as the Moon goes into Sagittarius, it's going to hit that South Node where there's this kind of like releasing control over the situation, right? That's the big thing with Jupiter and Pisces is, again, it's not, all of a sudden things are great and things are amazing, but it's kind of like, you kind of just have to let go and let God, right? Like, even if, let's say you're in prison, you still have to figure out some way to, I don't want to say make it okay, but to at least like, because if you're just like, oh my God, this is forever, like that's just going to weigh too much on you. Jupiter and Pisces is like, yo, you got to make do with the space that you're in. You got to just, like, I hate to say it, let go and let God figure out the rest later. And I think this Moon in Scorpio sextiling Mercury and this Pluto, it's like, dude, just let go of the control, let go of the fear, just do it, and like you'll get over it. It's gonna be scary, but whatever. Like, who cares? Don't worry about it. And this is how we go into New Year's Eve. I'm trying to get better at my like plugs. If you want good luck into the future, into this new year, give this video a like, please. It really helps me out. And if you also like this content, let me know that you like it. Since now that the dislikes are gone, I don't know what you guys always like or not like, but please give me a like if you like this. It actually lets me know what's going on. And I just think this moon, time to move on. We get to Friday, and we get into New Year's Eve. Moon's going to be conjoining Mars, making that sextile to Saturn. Hey, it feels good to move on. It feels good to go. Like, when you're flying, you don't regret that. Like, have you ever had to pick up and move on from something so difficult that you didn't want to do, that you resisted, and then you finally did it, and you just felt free? That's what this is. This is why I'm kind of like going off on you guys right now, because like there is a good moment coming up here in the future. There are going to be good things of 2022, but it takes those hard realizations, right? You don't get to the good shit in life by you doing it the easy way, right? If you want something, you have to earn that. Like, that's how shit works. It's not going to be if you want to love your life, if you want to you gotta earn, like, it's not that you don't deserve it. You do deserve it, but you have to create that for yourself. And there's going to be things that you're going to be challenged, you're going to be questioned, you're going to be like, again, the universe is going to check. If you really want something, the universe is going to check you for that. Are you down for it? And like, you can make it happen. But I think as this moon conjoins Mars, go. Like, and well, the thing is, I think, well, that's really what Thursday is. I think by this point, you are going. And I think at this point, it feels fucking good. Like, I know that Mars is angry and Mars rules fights and conflicts. So there is this part of the moon in Sag on top of Mars in Sag of kind of like being a little, but look, name one hard aspect that's going on here. It's a fucking sextile to Saturn. Like, this is good. Well, here's the thing. Saturn in Aquarius rules like isolation and alienation, right? Outcasting. There is something about Sagittarius, like, in order to be outcasted oftentimes, like when someone was exiled out of a community, you're kind of on your own. You're kind of winging it. You're Mars and Sagittariusing it. And that's this moon Mars conjunction. Like, and here's the thing. It feels good. Leave it all behind. Just do your fucking thing, right? What's changing? What's different? We're still in the middle of this Venus retrograde. We're getting into the new year. Get excited. Get hopeful. Like, you're on a new journey now. Like, there's no reason. Like, there's literally no reason to fear. Like, even because there's literally, you're just gonna, again, you got to get over the fear stuff. I think this moon and Mars, you can be deathly afraid of flying, but the second you're in that plane, kind of cool, huh? Kind of fucking cool. You can be deathly afraid of going fast in a car, but when you're going really fucking fast in a car, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. You can be deathly afraid of riding a dirt bike or jumping in the air, but like, you do that, it's pretty fun. There's a reason why people take risks, right? There is a reward. And I think this moon-Mars conjunction is like, like Mars is, yes, Mars is fights and conflicts. Yes, Mars is, and I talk a lot about that because I think that's important to bring up. But Mars is also like energy, action, drive, your ambition, and like how you're like, and if you're like, Mars in Sagittarius needs to be going. It always needs to be going. So go and do something. It's sextiling Saturn. There's something so constructive about this. There's something that needs to happen with this. And again, Mercury and Venus Mercury's now in shadow. Venus is still retrograde. So I guess, like, if you think you know what's going on or what you want, I don't know if that's necessarily true. We're undergoing a change in our values, and Mercury's going to be entering shadow. There's a lot of mental stuff that we're going to get clear on a lot of things. And again, we're going to come back to Mercury being over Pluto at 24 degrees Capricorn. But this is the new year. I think Moon and Mars, go for it. Fuck it. I mean, this is also the first Moon and Sag transit we get with Jupiter and Pisces. Like, dude, even if on the other side of things it's worse, man, there's no point into telling yourself that. Like, here's the thing. If you are going to go into war, for example, D-Day, for all those soldiers that were pretty much about to go onto the beaches and pretty much get annihilated with a wall of bullets, did those generals say, hey guys, you're all probably gonna, like, open the doors and like get murdered instantly and, like, try not to die? Like, you don't, like, what they probably did was say, hey, open those doors and literally fucking give them hell. Like, you have to motivate people to do this shit. You can't just motivate people. You can't just be like, hey, yeah, shit's on the other side is gonna be crazy. If you're, hopefully you don't die and scare the shit out of them. You gotta motivate them, right? And I think this is kind of like straight the fuck up. Put on your war paint. Like, again, Jupiter's in Pisces. There's so much of this heavy energy along with like Jupiter and Pisces. Like, if you like, it's muddy outside, it's rainy and it's wet. Are you going to play in the mud? Are you going to make some fun out of it? Or are you going to stay inside and be a fucking whiny bitch about it? Right? So anyway, we get to New Year's. Moon is pretty much voiding in Sagittarius, and then the moon goes into Capricorn. Pretty much Moon and Sagittarius, like, boy, we partied last night. Boy, that was a lot. And here's the thing. there's this sense of kind of like, I feel like, you can get excited for 5 minutes, but it does wear off, right? Like, you should get excited, but then we're in the new year and things really change, because then a few hours later, the moon enters Capricorn and we start the new moon in Capricorn. So when I talk about this new moon in Capricorn right now, what I think is really special and important about this is we're not just talking about like your annual new moon in Capricorn. We have this, we're dealing with the Pluto return of like America. Pluto's here, the Venus retrograde, we're going to have Mercury retrograde. Think about way back, starting at the very end of 2018, going into 2019, when the nodes first entered Cancer and Capricorn, and Saturn was in Capricorn, and we had the Saturn-Pluto stuff. We're going back over all this shit again. And it's like, let's revisit all of this. What do we need to clear up? What do we need to clear out? What do we need to level? We are giving our full time and attention to this space in our lives. This is a new moon. It's trining Uranus too. Not even that big of it's not that big of a deal, but hey, that's good. This new moon in Capricorn. What's the plan, Stan? Really? What are the rules to the game? How are you going to do things? What's new? This is January 1st. Is it a new year? Is it new you? Or is it the same fucking shit, same fucking day, different day? Like, or are you going to do something different? We have a new moon on January 1st. God, if you don't want to make a New Year's change this year, a New Year's resolution, or if you're telling yourself that you want change in your life and you're not doing it around this time, like, how bad do you really want it? How bad do you really want it? Like, it amazes me. Like again, what is it like? Are you going to be cowardly, or are you going to rise up to the fucking like call, like straight up? Like, are you like, you are more powerful than you think. A lot of society has told you that you're not powerful, that you can't do things, that you suck, and you listen to that because whatever reason, but you should stop and you should go and just fucking grab life by the fucking balls. Do it. You're like, I look at this as kind of like, this is the new plan. This is the new, I don't want to say the new order because I'm not trying to trigger everybody's fucking conspiracy theory opinions across everything. But this is like, there's a new way of doing things now. There's a new way of, a new business plan. This is a new order. This is a new policy. It's different, right? It's not, the Mercury's also in shadow. This may not work the first time. This is about trial and error, right? Mercury, I can't, like, if you are also putting all of your chips on this working the first time, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. Like, you need to give yourself room to learn. And that's what's cool about this time. Mercury's in shadow. Try something new, but don't, beat yourself up if it doesn't work, or, you fail at it. Cause like the Mercury retrograde, that's the time to do it. Do something that you can learn, that you can fuck up at, so you can kind of go over it, relearn again, and do it better the next time. But this new moon in Capricorn, like, dude, what's the plan? Where are we going? What's going on? What are the new rules, right? What's the new way of doing things now? We're stepping it up. We're fucking leveling up, right? It's 2021. Or it's 2022. Jupiter's in Pisces now. Like, yo, it's time to, like, again, are you going to be like upset that it's, rainy and stormy outside and snowy outside? Or are you going to go and play in the mud? Like, I look at it that way. We get to Sunday and it doesn't stop. It literally doesn't stop. New moon in Capricorn and Mercury goes in Aquarius. So again, on Saturday, the moon just goes into Capricorn and we really start focusing on this area. It's like, all right, like, what, it's taking stock of it all. And then we get actually into Sunday where Mercury goes into Aquarius. We're going to see. We're going to get into that in a second, but new moon in Capricorn. Sunday, you're getting ready for the first week. You're watching your favorite weekly horoscope, me, by this time. And are you going to lay the law down? Are you going to lay the law down? Mercury's going to go into Aquarius where, That's good, but also I have a lot of mixed feelings. It's good because Mercury has like triplicity in Aquarius, and I think Mercury in Capricorn's a little bit like not closed-minded, but Mercury in Capricorn is just kind of like very A to B to C, versus Mercury in Aquarius might be very meta. It might be very outside the box, but not always in the best of ways. Mercury goes into Aquarius, and we're learning different, unique, new things. Mercury and Aquarius, the way that we're expressing, the way that we're communicating, it's through that Saturnian way, right? Like trying to get our point across, trying to it's the Saturn. Well, I the reason I kind of like felt weird about this is like we're about to have so many transits going through Aquarius, and just like all of this Aquarius stuff has been different since 2020. Like we had the Mars Saturn conjunction. That was when the lockdown started. That's the first start of the Aquarius stuff. Then when we had more of the Aquarius stuff in at the end of 2020 going into 2021, that's when we had the vaccines get launched. That's when we had the stock market thing. That's when we had the Texas freeze over. It's like we get to Mercury and Aquarius, the way that you're going to be communicating might be a little bit like out there. It's like, yeah, we could say that, but like it's going to be a little bit more than just that, right? Mercury and Aquarius too is, for one, mob mentality stuff too, is you're gonna see a lot of it. You're gonna see a lot of this, like, well, you kind of saw it with the AMC GameStop squeeze, where it was like this like group of outcasts and rebels being like, fuck the stock market, we're gonna upend it. That was during a Mercury retrograde in that Aquarius area. Mercury and Aquarius is like our mind's more focused on that like outside mentality, that rebellion mentality, that group mentality too. But I mean, Mercury's in shadow, so whatever you're thinking, whatever you're doing, whatever you're saying, whatever your mind's on, I'm gonna come back to. In fact, this is like getting close to where the Mercury Cazimi is. But I think now that this is the new moon in Capricorn, this is a Sunday. It's like, all right, we're clear. We're on the like full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. We're in a new year at this point. Mercury's in a new sign. It's also in shadow. Jupiter's in Pisces. There's so much going on this week, guys. Like this is, and that's not, it's not always like a good thing or a bad thing, really. That's subjective, right? Some people like spicy food, some people don't like spicy food, and they would consider it good. Some people would consider it bad. Just depends on who you are and what's going on in your life, right? That's why we do astrology. It's very individualistic. But next week, by the way, just the Venus Cazimi. Not a lot's going on, really. It's just the Venus Cazimi, which is cool. And some are like, Cameron, that's a lot. What are you talking about? It's just the Venus Cazimi. We're going to be dealing with what happens this week for a minute. But, I just think, I don't know, this is, and whatever we do this week is going to be telling the story for like the next couple of weeks from like into like March. This is leading us all the way to the beginning of March. And that's when Mars and Venus will conjoin Pluto together, and they'll go into Aquarius. You guys should know that. You've probably watched my horoscopes by now. So, new year, new you. New year, new you. Go for it. Go, like, fuck it. Don't be afraid. Don't live in fear. Think for yourself. Be the change that you want to see, right? Like, you matter. You influence people. You need to do, I don't know. I could just go off about this stuff all the time. I'm so excited for this week, though. I'm very excited for you guys. I really want to know what your guys' thoughts are about what's going to be ahead of you for this new year. So if you're still watching this at this point, let me know. But anyway, with that being said, I love and appreciate every single one of you guys so much. Happy New Year. Get excited, and I'll be seeing you next week.